Namaskar, Dileep Singh Advocate, and welcome back to my channel, Journey of Constitution of India. This is part 3 of my video series on Article 14, Right to Equality. I sincerely thank all my viewers who have spared time to watch part 1 and part 2 of this series. And I am obliged to all those who spare time to write comment as well as subscribe the channel. Before I proceed further, I would request all those viewers who are watching this video and have not watched the other two videos of part 1 and part 2, please watch those videos. You will be better informed about Article 14 of the Constitution. It was year 1958, a very important year in the history of Supreme Court, as Supreme Court has shifted from Parliament House, where it was working, to the present building. And whenever the name of Supreme Court comes, that imposing building comes to the mind of all people. And the seat of justice is standing tall in the mind and heart of people of India. In 1958, a constitution bench of 5 judges headed by Chief Justice S.R. Das was constituted, and it started the process of the evolution, which Justice Das has propounded the concept of reasonable classification in the very first judgment of Charanjit Lal case in 1950. With him, the other judge, Justice Patanjali Sastry, was also of the dissenting view in that case, and they propounded the concept of doctrine of reasonable classification. This time, Justice Das was only from the old lot of judges who took oath in the 1950 at the time of starting of the Supreme Court of India. This case which I am discussing is Ram Krishna Dalmia versus Justice Tendolkar, AIR 1958, Supreme Court 538. Justice Das was in all the previous three cases. The concept of reasonable classification with intelligible differentia and rational nexus got a new height by elaborating that category with the category of statutes which is to be tested on the constitutional validity. Justice Das had given this hint of categorization in his previous case of Anwar Ali Sarkar. In this case, petitioner had challenged Section 3 of Commission of Inquiry Act 1952, as well as the notification issued under the Act for conducting an inquiry by the Commission set up under chairmanship of Justice Tendulkar, a judge of Bombay High Court. This commission was to inquire against the companies related to the petitioner. Petitioner filed a writ petition before the Bombay High Court, challenging the notification as well as the Act, being an arbitrary and non-discriminatory, but the Bombay High Court dismissed the petition. So the petitioner came to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court held that Section 3 of the Act as well as notification is valid, as the Act only requires inquiry, and then the notification is also issued for the inquiry in the case of companies of the petitioner. The Act does not delegate arbitrary power to government, and petitioner could not show discrimination, so the Act as well as notification was held valid. An important addition was made in the very concept of Article 14, that at the time of considering the constitutional validity of a statute or notification, it is not only the facts which are part of the notification or act are to be considered, but also the surrounding circumstances which comes to the knowledge of the court by the affidavit from the affidavit filed by the party or from his common knowledge. So this new dimension was added to the concept of arbitrary, non-arbitrary, concept of reasonable classification. Here, a category is was created, certain categories were created for the guide as a guidelines to the court. To judge the constitutional validity on intelligible differentia and rational nexus, categories were created in the following way. First, when no reasonable classification can be made out from the statute or surrounding circumstances, in this case, court will strike down the part offending Article 14. Second category was when there is no reasonable classification in a statute, nor a policy guidelines for classification was given to the executive in the statute, then the court will strike down the case. Third category was when there is no classification in the statute, but there is a proper policy and guidelines in the statute for classification given to the government, then court will uphold the statute. The another category was when a statute with specific guidelines to the executive, but the executive does not follow that guidelines in classification of its action, then the statute will be upheld, but the executive action will be set aside. In this case, the statute and action both were under challenge. So it was held that not only the law has to be reasonable, but its application will also have to be equal to all, and equal protection of laws should be given under that act. This is all about the Dalmia case. Now, do you remember the lines which were written by Justice Bhagwati and became very popular? I'm just sharing those lines to you. You remember it. Equality is a dynamic concept with many aspects and dimensions, and it cannot be creeped, cabined, and confined within traditional and doctrinal limits. From a positivistic point of view, equality is antithetic to arbitrariness. In fact, equality and arbitrariness are sworn enemies. One belongs to the rule of law in republic, while the other to the whims and caprice of an absolute monarch. These lines become very popular because judgment on right to equality traveled beyond the doctrine of reasonable classification and based on taste of non-arbitrariness in the judgment where it was written, and that judgment is R.P. Royappa versus the state of Tamil Nadu, which came on 23rd November 1973, and the citation is AIR 1973 Supreme Court 555. We all know 1973 was a very eventful year in the history of Supreme Court. I think it is in mind of every person who is related with and who has studied and came in contact with the Supreme Court and the law of the land. Three important events I am sharing with you. First, which came on 23rd April 1973, was the judgment in case of Keswanan Bharati versus the state of Kerala, which is the historic judgment, a watershed in the development of constitutional history. And the second was on 25th April 1973, when Justice Ray was elevated to the Chief Justice of India in supersession of three senior judges, Justice Sela, Justice Hegre, and Justice Grover. On 31st March, the 31st May, the third incident was, for the first time, these three judges resigned from their post and created a history and given a signal to the executive that interference in judicial independence will not be taken lightly by the judges. Now coming to the case which I was mentioning, the Royappa case, the relevant fact is the petitioner was an IAS officer of Tamil Nadu cadre. He was promoted to act as chief secretary when the post was vacant, but later he was transferred to a non-cadre post created, and an officer junior to him was promoted to the post of chief secretary. The petitioner filed a writ petition under Article 32 of the Constitution, challenging the transfer on the ground that the post created was a non-cadre post and lower in the responsibility and status of Chief Secretary, so it is a violation of Article 14 and 60. He also alleged that IAS cadre rules 1954 was not followed. Thirdly, he alleged malafide to the Chief Minister of that time. The Supreme Court unanimously dismissed the petition, but for different reasons. The majority consisted of Justice Chandrachud, Justice P.N. Bhagwati, and Justice Krishna Iyer, where the judgment was authored by Justice Bhagwati. The line which I quoted was the line of Justice Bhagwati in this case, and the minority was of Justice A.N. Ray and Justice Palekar, where Justice Ray authored the judgment. Majority view was that promotion to Chief Secretary post of the petitioner was only in officiating capacity, not in substantial capacity. But it was held that state of Tamil Nadu could not add a non-cadre post under rule, as this post did not exist in central cadre. But at the same time, it was said that mere violation of a rule does not mean the violation of fundamental rights. Next, majority held that the transfer of petitioner to an inferior post is violation of Article 14, but from the materials which were available with the court, it could not be ascertained that the post created was a lower post in status and responsibility. So the contention of petitioner was not accepted. And it was also held by court that there is no proof of arbitrariness, so no violation of fundamental rights. However, all 5 judges agreed on one point, that in case of allegation of malafide by the petitioner, the onus rests heavily on the petitioner to prove that malafide. And it was also said that court should be slow in interfering an executive order on the ground of malafide. Now, we can sum up this journey of right to equality, which I started with the judgment of Charanjit Lal Chaudhary and coming to this Royappa case, that there is no absolute equality and classification is permissible in law, but that must be on the basis of intelligible differentia and rational nexus. It was also said that there is a presumption in favor of constitutional validity of any act, but that is a rebuttable presumption. And not only act, but the implementation of acts should also be fair and non-arbitrary. Hope this video has given you a good amount of information about the judgments which traveled in and the right to equality cases. And please feel free to post your comment on my channel, because this helps a lot. And if my video has helped you to understand and has improved your information level on the right to equality, please subscribe it. Thank you very much, and namaskar.